Hi, my name is Noah Hickman, and today I'm going to be talking to you about actually making friends, which I know it's surprising looking at me that that's what I'll be talking about, but here we are. And I think the best way to actually teach someone how to make friends is to actually teach them how people choose their friends in the first place. So, people typically choose their friends based on three different characteristics, one of which is the ability to both reassure and calm them. They like to be reassured and calmed, and the other two characteristics are one, likeness, how much you have in common with a person, and three, the ability to develop a deeper connection. So when it comes to actually just reassuring and calming someone, people typically can break that onto two different categories. One is fear slash anxiety. People are constantly afraid and anxious about basically everything in the world. And friendships are basically people's way of coping with that. Friendships allow them to, one, feel secure whenever they're anxious about something, bounce things off each other, get advice, things like that. They actually did a study where people were simply informed that they were going to be shocked, like a very violent, painful shock. And other people were informed that they were also going to be shocked, but it wasn't going to hurt a lot at all. The people who were told that it was actually a painful shock were much more likely, whenever asked whether they want to stay in a room full of people or by themselves, the people who were going to be shocked violently and it was going to hurt, those people much more likely chose to stay in the room with other people. And the people who were told that the shock's not really going to hurt that much, those people typically did not have as much of a preference. People also, on top of just fear and anxiety, people also get information from their friends. And they do that because basically everybody is insecure about a billion different things. Especially when it comes to opinions, people, if they're not sure about something, people get validation of their opinions based on whether or not other people agree with you, which is a terrible thing to do, and you should not do that because it's basically just confirmation bias, but that's just what people do. And so people typically choose friends who reassure them in that way. People who have the same beliefs in them make them feel more secure in their own beliefs, which makes them feel more of a connection with the person that they were talking to. And so you see this a lot in groups, like people, if they're in a group and they have like a different opinion, then whenever they go talk to the group, they'll be like, oh no, we agree with you. And then so they don't feel as self-conscious about the opinion. And that also it does, the more people that agree with them, the more secure they become in that opinion. Another thing on top of just reassuring and calming is likeness, how much do people have in common. People can, these can basically be broken up into two different things. One, just relative location, and actually the person themselves. So people, for whatever reason, love repetition. They like people that they see often. So if you're seeing someone, like you see someone every day, you're bound to actually start to like them a lot more. They've done studies where they actually just looked at teachers' classrooms in schools and then looked at how likely those people were to talk with each other. And they found that the teachers were actually much more likely to conversate with each other when they had classes that were closer together. And so, and that's one of the largest, which is pretty surprising, but it's one of the largest determinants of whether or not you're going to be friends with someone is just how much you see them. So, if you really just want to make friends in the short term, it makes sense to just go to a crowded room and just talk to people. Just showing up a lot of times is like half the battle. On top of just proximity, there's actual like who the person is, and that it goes by both physical appearance and actually like their personality. People typically will choose to be friends with people who are of the same relative attractiveness. So if you've ever wondered, oh, I have a lot of ugly friends, that probably means something because they've done studies and attractive people actually tend to hang out with attractive people. And less attractive people typically do hang out with less attractive people. And personality-wise, people like to hang out with people who have the same personality, maybe sense of humor, intelligence, all the things that make a person. Those are very important when it comes to choosing who your friend is. And finally, there's actual just depth of connection. People like to feel like they can develop a stronger connection with someone. And so basically connections are just being open with someone, being vulnerable, like just expressing things about yourself. And they've done studies where in college, they questioned both women and men, and both genders reported that the more often they were actually open and vulnerable with one of their friends, the stronger they felt their friendship was. And though there was different frequencies in how much that happened, both genders reported the same results as far as increased friendship. And there's also just the actual commitment. Because whenever you first start a friendship, it's usually, there's social exchange theory, which basically friendships initially are just about what you can get. It's, I'm your friend because maybe you can teach me about computers, or maybe you actually make me feel better, but for the long term, maybe not. So in the beginning, relationships are very much immediate, like what can I get for right now? And if I can't get anything right now, then we're probably not gonna be friends. But the longer that you've been friends and the more your friendship has developed, the more likely you are to invest in the future. So if I tell you something vulnerable about me in the beginning, I'm kind of expecting something back, and later on, I can tell you something, it's not a big deal because most likely I'm gonna hear something later about you. So the time limit isn't as crucial there. And really, so putting this all together, a lot of them, they very much connect with each other. Like if you see someone often, then typically you see them as more attractive. And if you see them more attractive, then you see them like them more. And then you're more likely to connect with them. They're all very much connected. But really, if you're talking long term, there's not a lot that you can do besides showing up as like the one thing that I would say 100% does make a difference. But besides that, it's a lot about, I know it's kind of cliche to say, but the best advice that I could give someone is just be yourself. And because, again, there's 3 different ways that people choose a friend. There's reassuring and calming. There's reassuring and calming. There's likeness and how much you have in common with the person. And there's depth of connection. And those 3 things usually come together to make what is a friendship. And so that's pretty much what I have to say on that. I know, I mean, the worst thing about it, though, is if you're having to ask how to make a friend, then you're probably in a bad place already. But just be yourself. That's the best thing you can do.